Hello, friends. I hope everyone around is safe and healthy, and the current situation across the globe is just a passing by phase. In the current scenario that we have in hand, we see numerous changes happening to the businesses at a very rapid pace. E commerce, online banking, e learning, remote working seem to have become a major part of our lives. On one end, where we all seem to be moving towards the digitally organized lifestyles, the online businesses, big, small, or medium, cannot ignore the rising number of cyber threats being experienced by them minute on minute. To discuss this and more, we have with us Jeff Dawley, President and founder of Cybersecurity Compliance Corporation of Canada. Jeff, welcome to Bay Street Diary.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So, Jeff, from being a chartered professional accountant in Canada to being a founder of a cybersecurity firm, enlighten us on your journey from securing numbers to now securing bytes.
It's been an interesting trip. In my career, I spent the first 25 years or so in finance, starting with really large corporations where I learned foundational elements to managing risk and putting controls in place. In smaller companies, I was often the CFO and occasionally forced to take over IT. Now, what that meant was I needed to broaden my education and my horizons. Most recently, I was leading the finance function for a Canadian lender who was operating overseas. As I took over IT, I asked a simple question of my team: where did we stand on cybersecurity? Unfortunately, the responses I got were three shrugs and somebody saying, "We're okay, don't worry about it." Now, I felt that that was unacceptable. As I looked around the marketplace, the cost of engagements ran upwards of $50,000, $100,000 for a single report. I knew there had to be a better alternative. So I set about drawing from my experience and my partner's experience as seasoned executives to give small businesses an affordable framework-based starting point for cyber, and providing larger companies with a better communication tool that would let them educate and win over those decision makers from the board and executive team who don't necessarily have an IT background.
Wow. So, Jeff, with COVID-19 spreading like wildfire, more companies are forced to implement remote working and work from home practices. And I believe that most companies' information is now being accessed from various locations and IP addresses. Does this keep the cybersecurity companies on their toes? What is the biggest challenge of any cybersecurity company in the current times?
Without question, I think challenges are being faced by everybody in every sector and of all sizes. The move to a digital environment isn't one to be done haphazardly. It needs some planning. So as a cybersecurity company out in the marketplace, the challenges we've always faced are finding our way onto the priority list for any organization. Unfortunately, it often takes a negative event, an attack, a successful attack, to capture a business's attention. So we continue to fight now with the noise of lockdowns and pandemics and COVID-19. And so that crowded marketplace that inundates executives with information became even more crowded. So there's a real fight for attention. By the same token, there's a huge opportunity out there. Everybody is working remotely and risk has increased. Distractions are now more than ever for anybody who's trying to engage online. So this is the time for businesses to take cybersecurity seriously and address any gaps that come out of doing simple things like education, online phishing training, and a basic assessment to know where your gaps are.
You're right. And I'm curious to know what strategy has been implemented by your organization for these unforeseen events.
One of the things that we did as things were shutting down, we recognized that there would be a number of non-traditional remote delivery models introduced to businesses. So we looked around at where the exposure would be, where businesses might be lacking in resources, and determined that it was critical we get out to the market with something that wouldn't cost any money to an organization looking to at least get a basic assessment of the remote workforce security position. So we developed a tool that can be remotely deployed at no cost through the end of June to any organization that wants it, that lets them push out a questionnaire to all of their remote teams and gauge their security, priority for each of those users, and then proactively call users and help address any gaps they might have in their home network. We just felt that it was important to take advantage of this opportunity to give people a free tool that helps put the minds of their teams at ease a little bit in a time when there are lots of other things that distract them.
Yeah, makes sense. Perfect. I truly feel sad about the current situation and the damage it has done to most of the businesses around the world. But history also states that crisis can spur their adoption of new technologies and business models. So, Jeff, like me, do you also believe that it's a great time to be in a cybersecurity industry with brick and mortar businesses panting and now trying to get into the digital space?
Yeah, again, cybersecurity for the last number of years has had a growing gap between available resources and open positions. Recently, there was a study that indicated there were 3 million open positions in the world with
Right.
simply not enough resources to go around. So we
Right.
talk about escalating costs in the space on consulting. The reality is that gap isn't going to shrink with more businesses moving online. This is absolutely a great time to be in a cybersecurity industry company. Frankly, any space that is focused on automation and digital delivery. The challenges are definitely going to be that we all face a remote work situation, and
Yeah.
getting somebody's attention on something that isn't hitting them in the face right now is a bit of a challenge. So I think it's a great time to be addressing cybersecurity. I very much enjoy the opportunities to speak to organizations and their members and companies and give them a basic level of education. But I think you'll see a significant move away from the consulting model for smaller companies towards a product or SaaS solution, software as a service type solution for smaller businesses. It's more affordable and still gives the type of guidance that benefits those smaller businesses.
Absolutely. So very interestingly, another industry that comes to my mind right now, which you also mentioned, is e-learning. It is getting bigger than anyone could have ever thought of. With school modules and programs getting online and the number of users multiplying to powers, do you see any cyber threat for online education industry, which today has the fastest growing subscriber base around the world?
Yeah, it's interesting. This has come up repeatedly in webinars that have been hosted over the last month and a half. Um, Remote learning or e-learning has been around for quite some time, and I think that especially for adults who have had jobs juggling families, the e-learning environment is not new. What is new is mass adoption for younger users. And having two children of my own in grade school, I can tell you it's been interesting watching the different tools that are employed and learning a little more about their security issues. We've all heard about Zoom and its challenges and the concept of meeting bombing. And I think that that is one of the more critical security issues is where learning platforms that are conducted live run the risk of having an interruption that is beyond embarrassing, potentially causes litigation against the organization hosting. Um, but I also think, and probably the bigger issue, is as you move to an online environment, you really need to think about the vulnerable population you're serving. We're talking about minors. We're talking about people who don't necessarily know right from wrong, don't understand what security means, what safe browsing is. So there will have to be an evolution of tools that will help protect more vulnerable users around live chats, around bullying, around a whole lot of the online issues that we know about today, but haven't been something we needed to address en masse with better tool solutions.
Right. So this could be a promising sector for your organization to explore.
Yeah, no question. I think that we've already jumped into the online education space in terms of adult users. Where it gets really interesting is trying to determine not just what secures an environment, but how you educate and protect users who need to have cybersecurity simplified for them.
So, Jeff, in this time, thinking about international market, I still like to play optimistic. I believe that the current financial turbulence should not cloud our judgments. And not to forget that Airbnb experienced an explosive growth immediately after the global recession of 2008, 2009. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I happen to be a member of some global investment clubs and have sat in on a number of webinars around raising capital in this environment. So, as much as I would agree with you that opportunities like this give adapting founders a great window to getting products into a space they might not ordinarily have seen, the challenge that they will face, irrespective of that invention, that wonderful idea, is accessing capital through traditional channels. What we found from investors in terms of feedback was that they were looking to support their existing investments and not as open to meeting new candidates, really focused on their pipeline and helping their existing investments survive what will be a challenging time for anybody.
Right, perfect. And as Albert Einstein said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity, so we are all staying positive.
Absolutely.
So, Jeff, with 25 plus years of experience in different industries, what advice would you like to give to the upcoming entrepreneurs?
Very basically, know your market. It's extremely important that you're connected to the marketplace you plan to offer your product into. Listen to advice. There are a number of people who will happily share their knowledge with you. It doesn't mean you take it all, but it means you listen humbly and then you determine what fits you best. Remain confident in your solution and defend it. Be adaptable when faced with challenge. And above all, show the kind of commitment you would expect in any organization that you choose as a supplier.
Wow, certainly some words of wisdom, Jeff. So, Jeff, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with our audience on Bay Street Diary. I must say it was very well articulated.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome, Jeff. So, friends, with me again, Jeff Dawley, sharing his insights and views on cybersecurity industry. We will catch you soon with another dashing entrepreneur of Canada. Watch our interviews and listen to our podcast on baystreetdiary.com. Follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel for best Canadian entrepreneurial talk shows. And yes, follow social distancing, stay safe, stay healthy. Remember, tough times don't last, but tough people do. Cheers.